welcome you in this class. And today objective or learning objective of this class is to know history in brief. So friends, learning history is very, very important because history teaches us lessons. Some history has been good, some history has been bad. Whether good or bad, it gives us lesson. If it is good, then it can be inspiring things. If it is bad, then we cannot follow it. We can make corrections, we can make improvement in it. Similarly, if you know human beings have developed so many things. He has developed atoms, atom bombs, hydrogen bombs, weapons of mass destruction, and your biological bombs, chemical weapons, and so many things have been invented or developed by human beings. But in the end, after using or using those kind of things, human being realized that it was really not good, and then they started doing corrections. So instead of war, now they talk about peace, war and peace. So similarly, in case of organic agriculture before the industrial revolution. If you understand industrial revolution, it mostly happened in Europe, America. America means your USA, this industrial revolution, but mostly confined to European countries. And this industrial revolution brought certain changes in all aspects of life of people, particularly in case of agriculture also. There were so many changes due to industrial revolution. Similarly, in India we had Green Revolution. So Green Revolution was in 1960s, 64, 65, 66, and so on. So before the industrial revolution in the Western world or European world and Green Revolution in India, it was mostly organic agriculture. People did not have pesticide, people did not have chemicals, people did not have fertilizer to use in agriculture. Therefore, first or post-first industrial revolution period, which was in during 1760 to 1840, many modern discoveries or inventions were made that made life of the people easy, life of the farmer bit easy. And in India, green and post-green revolution period in 1960s. But before both these revolutions, most of the agriculture in the world and India was through organic means, was organic, practically it was organic. You see the two pictures on the right side, for example, the Iron Bridge, Shropshire, England, the world's first bridge made of iron, 1781. The second one is a Watt steam engine. So because of these, there were many more inventions. Because of those, some technological development happened in textiles, in steam power, iron making, invention of machine tools, glass making, gas lighting, cement making, and so many modern industries come up. And agriculture was not left behind. It used certain machines for tillage, harvesting, spraying, means spraying of chemicals, spraying of machine started, transport increased, and chemicals, pesticide, fertilizer introduced. So before all these inventions, we were doing organic farming. But these kind of inventions made us to follow or to start this chemical farming. Particularly, I want to mention certain names like Jethro Tull invented a horse-drawn hoe and a seed drill with tines to sow the crops. By middle of the 19th century, manufacturing of single superphosphate started in England. I think some of you might be knowing. Experiment conducted by Lewis and Gilbert. And the SSP was made simply by crushing the bones, and sulfuric acid was added to produce single superphosphate. And the motive behind development of single superphosphate was business. The motive behind all kind of industrial revolution was business, to earn more and more money. The first tractor internal combustion engine in USA in 1910. Haber and Bosch, which revolutionized the production of fertilizers. And you know Haber and Bosch process ammonia synthesis, and then nitrogenous fertilizer were made. DDT was synthesized in 1939 by Muller in Switzerland. discovery of benzene hexachloride in France, and nitrophenols were the first group of selective herbicides developed in 1933 and were followed by the development of 2,4-D MCPA in 1940s. Means during these periods, people developed several modern tools and chemicals like DDT, BSC, nitrophenol, or fertilizers. And similarly, this Justus Liebig, he made the modern theory of mineral nutrition. So developed the theory of plant nutrition. He believed that mineral salts were the only nutrients plants needed. So he indirectly encouraged the use of chemical fertilizers in agriculture, Justus von Liebig. But what happened, people in Europe have adopted this modern farming or chemical farming. But immediately they must have realized number of side effects of conventional farming in Europe and America. So there were some some people who opposed chemical farming or conventional farming or modern farming at the same time. It means contemporarily people opposed the chemical farming. For example, F.H. King. F.H. King, he wrote a book, Farmers of 40 Centuries or Permanent Agriculture in China, Korea, and Japan. So it was a travelogue. Travelogue means Safarnama or Yatra Vrtant, means telling about his journey through the medium of a book. So he wrote a travelogue and descriptions of his observation of farming systems during his travels in China, Korea, Japan in the early 1900s. So what he found that most of the European farming which was based upon chemicals, fertilizers and other tools was polluting the environment and it was not good. And he appreciated the kind of farming which was going on in China, Korea and Japan. So in China, Korea, Japan, that time it was mostly organic farming. So he was quite impressed by these Eastern Asian countries. So F.H. King, he wrote the book Farmers of 40 Centuries or Permanent Agriculture in China, Korea and Japan. So this has been a very classical book. Now came the time of Rudolf Steiner from Germany. He has delivered certain sermons or certain lectures. 8 lectures were compiled by his disciples, and he was founder of anthroposophy and father of biodynamic agriculture. In 1928, Demeter, the organization formed around Steiner's teaching, creating the set of standards to define sustainable agriculture practices. So he based his farming methods mainly on organic means. He suggested use of certain preparations, certain organic matter preparations and so on. So overall, it was kind of organic promotion of kind of organic farming by Rudolf Steiner. Then came Lord Northumberland. Lord Northumberland was from USA and he wrote a book, Look to the Land. Look to the Land in 1940. So these are very classical books. And he said that the farm itself must have a biological completeness. Means farm should not depend upon outside sources. It must be a living entity. It must be a unit which has within itself a balance of organic life. So he was supporting organic farming, and he gave the term organic farming first time. Then came Lady Eve Balfour from United Kingdom. So she wrote a book, The Living Soil, in 1943, and she spread the organic philosophy globally. And her book inspired the founding of the Soil Association in Britain in 1946, which is still continuing but with different names. And she found that there was close relationship between soil fertility and human health, and decline in soil humus and fertility result in decline in human health. So her faith or her opinion was quite similar to Sir Albert Howard. What he said that health of the soil is related to health of the plant and then health of the human beings. 1947, doctors and consumers blame agricultural chemicals for causing the development of cancer and mental disorders. So it was in Europe that in 1947, that time that people, local people started blaming chemicals or agricultural chemicals for causing several diseases in human beings, including cancer and mental disorders. So in France, there was the introduction of the principles of organic farming because doctors and consumers blame agricultural chemicals for causing the development of cancer and mental disorders. So as early as in 1947, people started movements, and even now there are certain parties in Europe which claim that they are Greenpeace party, Green party, something like that. And in America, USA, J.I. Rodale was very important person, and he started a magazine on organic farming and gardening in 1942. And fundamentally, he was a publisher, but he got some interest in organic farming. And he demonstrated that organic farming and gardening techniques on his research farm. He also did some research besides publishing books. He used to publish several dictionaries, several other books, and so on, but he had some interest in organic farming also. And he was closely associated with Albert Howard. He used to have correspondence with Sir Albert Howard about organic farming. And Albert Howard will contribute certain articles in his magazine, Organic Farming and Gardening. So he was basically founder of the Rodale Press. He popularized the concept in the USA, concept of organic farming, and the healthy hunjas. Healthy hunja, I will shortly introduce you what is hunja. So Healthy Hunjas was a book written by Rodale in 1948 and 255 pages. And in 1947, Rodale established the Soil and Health Foundation, which is now called as the Rodale Institute. So fundamentally, he established Soil and Health Foundation, which was later on renamed as the Rodale Institute. So Rodale Institute is there in USA, which is still doing lot of research work, not lot of, some research work on organic farming, this Rodale Institute. So you can see the website of Rodale Institute. So you can see the titles like Why Organic Science Education. So this website or this institute is dedicated to organic farming in USA. Now come to the Japan. In Japan, M. Fukuoka, he was Japanese farmer and philosopher, and he wrote some books like The One Star Revolution was the book, One Star Revolution and Introduction to Natural Farming. So he was proponent of natural farming that let the soil grow plants in its natural way. And his book was published in 1975 and translated to English in 1978. The other book written by him was The Natural Way of Farming, The Theory and Practice of Green Philosophy, published in 1975 and translated in 1985. And he suggested that no till, there is no need for tillage, no herbicide, grain production techniques, and called as natural farming or do nothing farming. No need to do anything. If you want to know in detail about his farming practices, his books are available. You can know in detail. Then Rachel Carson from USA. She was basically marine biologist, author, and conservationist, and her book was quite famous, Silent Spring, 1962. She opened the world's eyes to the damage that pesticides were doing to the global environment. She did not like the use of pesticides in agriculture, and she blamed the industries of chemical for spreading the incomplete information and government people accepting dictates of the industry. Even this is happening today also. Means it is very difficult to put your opinion about the pesticides. If you say pesticides are bad, you should not use them and this and that, then many people will be after you. Then Hans Muller and Mary Muller, they were the couple from Switzerland. They were proponents of organic biological agriculture, worked through 1950s, and they worked closely with Hans Peter. So basically, they got idea. Hans Peter was the scientist, Hans Peter Roche, and he was their guru. You can say guru to develop a natural and sustainable approach to farming. Means they started new branch of organic agriculture, that is organic biological agriculture. Hans Peter Rusch from Germany, he wrote two books in German language. You can read the title, Die something, and then Biology, Schen, Denkens. I cannot read it, it is in German. So one book in 1955, other in 1968. He gave the concept of nature as a cycle of living particles, built the theoretical background of organic biological agriculture. So you can remember just that he started organic biological agriculture. If you want to know in detail, you need to read his books. Then in between came the IFOAM, International Federation of Organic Agriculture Movements. So this is basically not a government organization. It is kind of non-government organization where most of the countries or most of the important countries of the world are represented. So India is the member of IFOAM and many Asian countries are member of IFOAM. All European or American countries are members of this. And they have some regional offices in Asia, Africa, and other continents. So basically, this organization, IFOAM, was established in Versailles in France in 1972. So, but later on, it was headquartered or shifted to Bonn, Germany. So now IFOAM headquarters are in Germany, and it provides authoritative information about organic agriculture, promote worldwide organic agriculture, and exchange knowledge. So it is world's organization, umbrella organization, mostly promoting organic farming. And they also conduct certain trainings for farmers, trainings for technicians, trainings for scientists, and so on about organic farming. And then in 1972, a book was published, The Limits to Growth by Club of Rome. The name of the group was Club of Rome from Italy. Now it has been shifted to Switzerland. The Limit to Growth. Issues of growth of human population and global economy. So there are several questions that what will happen if growth in the world population continues unchecked? What will be the environmental consequences if economic growth continues at its current pace? So they were of the opinion, let us stop population so that you don't need to use chemicals and you can protect environment by producing organic foods. And Schumacher, E.F. Schumacher from Germany, he wrote a very brilliant book, Small is Beautiful, a study of economics as if people mattered. Small is Beautiful, a study of economics as if people mattered in 1973. And you can see on the right side, the cover page of the book, where Mahatma Gandhi's picture is there. He put Mahatma Gandhi's picture on this book, Small is Beautiful. So he wrote many radical ideas in the above book, and including the concept of sacrificing economic growth for a more fulfilling working life and making quality of life the central goal of economics. So overall, indirectly, he supported protecting the environment, and environment can be protected with the help of organic farming so that one can reduce the chemical load on the soil, on the environment. And in 1970s, Know Your Farmer, Know Your Food worldwide. This was a campaign. You should know about your farmer, who is producing, and know your food, where from your food is coming. So it was in US, Canada, Australia, Europe. Most of the developed countries, this campaign started. So purpose was to encourage consumption of locally grown food because you know the farmer who is producing it. You know how much chemical are being used. So there is the promotion of this concept with slogans such as know your farmer, know your food. Then in 1980s, group pressure for government regulation of organic production worldwide. Throughout the world, various farming and consumer groups seriously begin to pressure for government regulation of organic production. Means in every country, people raised their voice that let us come to the organic, let us start organic, particularly in developed countries. This led to the legislation and certification standards being enacted through the 1990s and to date. Means since then, several countries started legislating, making the organic farming some legalization, legal status of organic farming in 1990s and up to now. Currently, most aspects of organic food production are government regulated in major countries. Even in India now, it is regulated by the government, organic farming. In 1989, Cuba institutes urban food production called organoponics. The collapse of Soviet Union, which supported Cuba, causing a loss of economic support and resulted in a unique situation to develop in Havana, Cuba. Organic food production is a necessity because they were not getting supply of fertilizers, pesticides and other chemicals. So therefore they wanted alternative, which was organic farming. In 1990s, retail market for organic farming started growing, and retail market started at a very high rate. It started growing. The retail market for organic farming in developed economies is growing by about 20% annually due to increasing demand by consumers. And major drivers were quality and safety of food, because consumers believed that the organic products are safer and they have better quality and the potential for environmental damage. And we will help to protect our environment if we use or if we buy the organic food. In 1991, European Union provides a legal framework to organic farming as early as 1991. In 2002, United States adopts the National Organic Program. It is known as NOP, National Organic Program, the United States of America, and it provided development framework for organic agriculture. Means it got official status from the government in 2002. Now, very brief, I want to tell you history of organic farming in India. Sir Albert Howard was basically a botanist. Botanist means plant breeding. He was deputed at Pusa, Indian Imperial Agricultural Research Institute, IRA Pusa, which was then in Bihar, and he was supposed to breed the wheat varieties. And he did breed some wheat varieties, but his interest was more in organic agriculture. So he has seen many Indian farmers and many Indian farming, and he has also seen European farming and American farming. So by that time, American farming and farming in Europe was totally chemical farming, mostly chemical farming. So he did not like chemical farming of Europe, and he appreciated organic farming in Asia. So he had several. He has learnt several things from Indian farmers. He declared Indian farmers as his guru, and then he wanted to improve the life of people around the world. So he developed some composting system, and after some time, he left Bengal, Bihar, and then he shifted to Indore. And in Indore, he got some land from the government, and he established a center where he did some research on organic farming. So that time he found mycorrhiza. Long ago, he declared the significant role of mycorrhiza in maintenance of soil fertility and plant nutrition. So now Sir Albert Howard is considered as father of modern organic agriculture, and in the beginning he worked at Pusa, Bengal, or you can say Bihar, Bengal. It was maybe one that time, and he was having his wife and his sister around. So there were two people who helped him in writing his data, writing his papers and work. He documented traditional Indian farming practices and came to regard them as superior to conventional agriculture of Europe. In 1943, he wrote a book, An Agricultural Testament. This book is worth reading. It is just 150-page book, about 150-page book. Those students who have interest in soil fertility can read this book. In 1947, he wrote another book, The Soil and Health, a study of organic agriculture, is the first book to include organic agriculture in its title. Means it was the first book where organic word came, organic agriculture word came. So these are the two books on the left side, An Agricultural Testament by Albert Howard. On the right side, The Soil and Health, a study of organic agriculture. So these two books are available freely on the net. If anybody is interested and you do not find a copy of this book, just write to me one email, I will send you. So he worked at Agricultural Research Station Indore, where he developed aerobic composting technique, which is now known as Indore process of composting. And North American as well as British organic farming was fundamentally influenced by Howard. Means his teaching were quite useful to American and British people to learn organic agriculture. By reintegrating the different agricultural research disciplines, he concluded that the health of the soil, plants, animals, and humans are interrelated. What does it mean? It means if your soils are not healthy, they will not give you healthy food. And healthy food means healthy plants, and humans cannot be healthy. So these three things are interrelated. And the other important conclusion was a humus-rich soil is the key for successful farming. Any farming, particularly organic farming, cannot be successful unless you have sufficient quantity of humus. The next person who contributed towards organic farming in India was Sir Robert McCarrison. He was fundamentally a doctor who was in British Army, a doctor in British Army in India, and he established the Institute of Nutrition in 1918. And originally a single room laboratory at the Pasteur Institute, Kurnool, Tamil Nadu, for the study of beriberi, and was called the Beriberi Inquiry Unit. So this is how National Institute of Nutrition took the birth. Now it is in Hyderabad, but it is started from Tamil Nadu, Kurnool. The facility moved to Hyderabad in 1958, and in 1969 it was renamed the National Institute of Nutrition. So it is still there in the Hyderabad in Telangana, National Institute of Nutrition, which was founded basically in 1918 by Sir Robert McCarrison. So he did some studies on rats. He was interested in quality of the food. First conclusion he made was that if you add fertilizer to the soil, if you grow food with the help of fertilizer, then quality of the food is poor compared to organic food, number one. Number two, or I can read it for Robert McCarrison Nutrition Research Laboratory in Kurnool, relationship among soil fertility, food quality, and human nutrition. So he was more interested in food quality. So McCarrison he found that decreased food quality due to increased use of mineral nitrogen fertilizer. So he was perhaps the first person to say that addition of fertilizer, nitrogenous fertilizer to soil decreases food quality. And he also studied Hunja tribes. Hunja tribes, studying the health and physique of Hunja tribes. These Hunja tribes have been a subject of studies by several people around the world because they live for a very long period. Average age is 100 years. They live at least for 100 years. So he also made certain studies on diet and physique of Indian races. Like he compared Hunja hillmen, Tibetan hillmen, Nepalese hillmen, a number of people he studied, and he found differences in their food habit and physique. In this case, you can go through in the detail, and This is the body weight gain. And in most of the cases, rats were fed with sick diet or poor European diet, and variety of diets he compared. So overall, he found that the sick diet, which was having less meat and more nutritious product, the rat were given a variety of diets, Bengali diets, Madrasi diet, this diet, that diet, and he found that the sick diet was the best because it contained maximum calories, and rats which were fed with sick diet had gained more weight than other kind of diets. So you can go through it. It is on the food. Now, history in India about Hunja people. So indigenous Hunja people are indigenous to Hunja Valley. Hunja Valley is in the Karakoram mountains of northern Pakistan. So beyond the Himalayas, we have Karakoram range, which falls in Pakistan now, in the Gilgit-Baltistan region of Pakistan. So Gilgit-Baltistan is in news because Pakistan has forced or thrusted elections in this province, and they say now it is part of the Pakistan. Pakistan claims that Gilgit-Baltistan is the part of the Pakistan, and the Hunja is situated northwest of the Hunja river. So actually name of the people is also Hunja people, and the name of the river is Hunja river, which is in Gilgit-Baltistan of Pakistan. Now you see in the picture Hunja Valley on the left side. This is very beautiful valley, and many tourists from the world, they go to Hunja Valley, and it is really tourist destination, but now it is in some troubles at the moment, but otherwise it has very beautiful lakes, water bodies, and so on. And some people say that it is beautiful, more beautiful than the Kashmir Valley, this Hunja Valley. You can see on the right side picture, the red one. The red one is the area of Hunja Valley, and it is just touching our Himalayas. So indigenous to Hunja Valley in the Karakoram mountains of northern Pakistan, healthy living advocate J.I. Rodale. J.I. Rodale wrote a book, The Healthy Hunja, in 1955, and they were noted for their longevity, healthy, and why they attained age of 100 years because of healthy organic food. They were eating healthy organic food and plenty of fresh air. So they have linked to the organic food because there were no chemicals in those areas. Even today, they use very less chemicals. There are very few tractors or may not be any tractor. So this is pollution free. You can see the people, Hunja people, they have very long age. So I read it for you. Did you know that Hunja Valley, a small and remote mountainous place in Pakistan, is home to some of the healthiest people on earth? They are the healthiest people on the earth. Healthiest people on the earth. They live well past 100 and have almost no report of cancer. See, no report of cancer means they are getting the kind of food, good quality food, which is free from chemicals, and there is no cancer, and there are very few diseases. So what is their secret? So people made studies on them, and they found that consuming apricot seeds which contain vitamin B17, that has been shown to decrease the risk of various forms of cancers. So they consume approximately 200 times more vitamin B17 than the average American. So you can see this. So not only vitamin B17, but there may be many more vitamins, proteins, and no chemicals, no pesticides in their food. So because of this, they are healthy people. It has been argued by the scientists. Now, friends, coming to official status of organic farming in India, what government of India has done for organic farming, this is also part of history. So actually launching of the National Program of Organic Production on 8th May 2000. So it was launching, but actually this program was implemented in year 2001. Promote the basic purpose of launching, you should remember NPOP. Sometimes full form is asked. Full form is asked. What is NPOP, National Program of Organic Production? So main job of NPOP was to promote, protect and develop the Indian organic movement, install accreditation and certification process. Number two, the accreditation and certification program started in 2001. And organic logo, India organic logo was released by the Government of India in 2002. So these are some important dates. And then what other initiatives were taken by Government of India? The Ministry of Commerce implements the NPOP through APIDA. So actually APIDA is an agency which is part of the Ministry of Commerce. And this APIDA implements the National Program of Organic Production. So this is the responsibility of APIDA. And what APIDA is doing, APIDA has developed under NPOP national standards. So first time our national standards of organic farming were developed in 2005 and then they were revised in 2014. Accreditation criteria for accrediting inspection and certification agencies was launched by NPOP. Now, what other functions have been done by Government of India for promotion of organic farming? National Project on Organic Farming, NPOF. This is National Project on Organic Farming. It is being run by National Center of Organic Farming, NCOF. And under National Horticulture Mission, partly they are promoting organic farming. Other mission is Horticulture Mission for Northeast and Himalayan states. Partly they are supporting organic farming. National Project on Management of Soil Health and Fertility also have some focus on organic farming. And Network Project on Organic Farming. This Network Project on Organic Farming is in Indian Institute of Farming System Research, Modipuram, which is part of the ICR. That network project on organic farming is being run by Indian Institute of Farming System Research and of course PKVY. PKVY is Paramparagat Krishi Vikas Yojana. This Paramparagat Krishi Vikas Yojana is fully dedicated for the promotion of organic farming. So there are many more schemes of the government which are directly or indirectly supporting organic farming in the country. And also ICR is also doing good work. One is I told you network project on organic farming, Modipuram Meerut. And other is we have opened or ICR has opened one institute, NOFRI, National Organic Farming Research Institute in Sikkim. So this is exclusively doing research work on organic farming. What is happening in Paramparagat Krishi Vikas Yojana? A subcomponent of the soil health management. So this is part of the soil health management scheme under National Mission of Sustainable Agriculture. So NMSA is the big umbrella under which you have SHM, that is soil health management, and under soil health management you have one subcomponent which is Paramparagat Krishi Vikas Yojana. The aim is to develop sustainable models of organic farming through a mix of traditional wisdom and modern science to ensure long-term soil fertility buildup, resource conservation and climate change adaptation and mitigation. Means the main objective is to promote organic farming so that our soil fertility can be maintained or increased and resources can be conserved and we can face the climatic changes easily. So these are the aims, and it also aims at empowering farmers through institutional development through cluster approach. It is financially supporting the farmers and looking to increase the area under organic farming. Through PKVY, Government of India is looking to increase the area under organic farming in the country. And government is also supporting certification program under this scheme, which is PGS, Participatory Guarantee System. It is a kind of certification program. I will tell you in detail about PGS in subsequent lecture. In India program will be the key approach for quality assurance under PKVY. So PKVY has been linked to PGS, Participatory Guarantee System. I will tell you later how it is being done. A group of farmers would be motivated to take up organic farming under the scheme. 50 or more farmers will form a cluster. So 50 farmers can come together, and land should be at least 50 acres to take up the organic farming. So that will be called one cluster, one group, one particular area. So there will be no liability on the farmers for expenditure on certification. So certification will be free of cost through PGS, Participatory Guarantee System, and farmer will get 20,000 money per acre in 3 years. So this is kind of incentive to the farmers who would like to adopt organic farming. So organic farming will be promoted by using traditional resources, and organic products will be linked with the market. So government is trying to link it with the market. If you want to know more about this scheme, you can browse this link, darpg.gov.in. So the everything about this scheme is given in detail on this website. On 18 January 2016, Prime Minister declared Sikkim as first Indian state. Sikkim becomes India's first organic state on 18 January 2016. Although total area of Sikkim is just 75,000 hectares, but this much land has been fully converted to organic lands. And now many states are coming forward and they want to promote organic farming, particularly Uttaranchal state. They are moving towards organic farming. So in certain blocks, in some districts, they are banning chemical use, and which will be a punishable offense. So you can see in detail about such news about organic farming. And there are a lot many training opportunities for the young people, like IFOM and NCOF. IFOM conducts trainings. NCOF is National Center of Organic Farming, and number of seminars, symposia, congress, national, international. In international, IFOM is the umbrella organization. Australia, they have their national organization in different European countries. FIBL is in Switzerland, which gives you data of the world. FIBL, USA, Asia, Thailand. And there are certain national agencies in India like EPI implements National Program of Organic Production, NCOF, National Center of Organic Farming, National Organic Farming Research Institute, Sikkim, ICR Network Project on Organic Farming, Indian Institute of Farming System Research, and full form of APIDA is Agricultural and Processed Food Products Export Development Authority, which is part of the Ministry of Commerce, and APIDA is responsible for third-party certification. I will explain you in subsequent lectures what is third-party certification. PG diploma, IGNOU is giving PG diploma in organic farming. Different state agriculture university now have organic farming as department, like HPKV Palampur. MET University is having one institute on organic farming, and NCERT has developed one book for students of 6th, 7th, and 8th class. Now they will undergo this teaching of organic farming. And now in many European countries, you see MSc, PhD in organic agriculture. This MET University is giving MSc in organic agriculture. And surprisingly, this Punjab Agricultural University, which was promoting chemical farming, has established new school of organic farming. The name of the school is School of Organic Farming. And then participatory guarantee system, this is PGS of certification, was started in July 2015. And then this APIDA, those students who are interested to know more about NPOP, they can browse this site of APIDA. You can apida.gov.in, and you will find good information collected about organic farming. So on that, you will find TraceNet. So TraceNet is a software that can trace the origin of organic products, and how many hands this product has been transferred, who has handled it. At one time it was farmer, then Halls it was in the market, who was having the product with him. So it traces the history of the product from farmers to the consumer. How many hands it has changed? TraceNet. So it is world's first online full traceability tool. Traceability is a continuous system of documentation to trace back the entire value chain till the last end. Means if a consumer is interested that how many hands a particular organic product has passed, when it was produced, what was the year, what was the season, who was the farmer, and then who purchased from farmer, and then who purchased next, until consumer. So at every line, at every point, records are maintained. So in case a problem is detected and product, it helps in pinpointing the source and location of the problem. Entire NPOP operation data is online now, TraceNet. So now you have barcode or kind of code. So you have software in the computer, you can trace it. Entire operation can be monitored on real-time basis. So it provides full traceability, immediate access to entire operational data and report generation, encourage operators to follow strict timelines in operations and documentation. So this TraceNet is definitely good aid to the consumer and to the people involved in organic farming. And as I told you, National Program for Organic Products Production information is available on APIDA website. If you are interested, you can see this blue color text. If you want to see the list of agencies, you can see accredited inspection and certification agencies, certification bodies. Bottom, you see present status, format, and so on. All sorts of information about organic farming is collected in one place. So you can browse this information. And then National Center of Organic Farming, NCOF. This is a Government of India institute being directly under the control of Ministry of Farmers Welfare, Government of India, Department of Agriculture, Cooperation and Farmers Welfare. So this National Center of Organic Farming was established in 2004 and it had its headquarters at Ghaziabad. Ghaziabad, Uttar Pradesh is the headquarters of National Center of Organic Farming. So the main purpose of this center is to promote organic farming, to help farmers get certification through PGS and many more activities like conducting trainings for the farmers, for the students and so on. So this center has several regional centers also. 9 regional centers are there. And you can see the list of National Center, Regional Center of Organic Farming. So like Bangalore. So Bangalore Center has responsibility for Karnataka, Kerala, Tamil Nadu, Puducherry. Bhubaneswar Center, Odisha, West Bengal. Gandhinagar, Gujarat, Goa. Ghaziabad itself has a regional center. So it has one national center as well as one regional center, Ghaziabad. It looks after responsibility of Uttar Pradesh, Delhi, Uttarakhand, Rajasthan. One Imphal center is there, Jabalpur center, Nagpur center, Panchkula center looks after Haryana, Himachal Pradesh, Punjab, Jammu Kashmir, and Patna center, Bihar, Jharkhand, Eastern UP. This is how these national regional centers of organic farming covers almost all the regions of the country, all the regions of India. And friends, this is a book which was released for Vandana Shiva. Vandana Shiva has been a famous staunch supporter of organic farming. She is environmentalist and she wrote a book, Wealth Per Acre. Wealth Per Acre, and she also wrote a book, Health Per Acre, which promotes organic farming, largely blaming the chemical farming, and she also says that we should save the local seeds. Local seeds should be saved. So this ends this lecture, and now you can have your questions. We have about 8 minutes time to questions.